My childhood friend, Ramjan, lived on the edge of the city outskirts. It wasn't like those suffocating city houses you often see. It was like that area lets you breathe free. During the day, it feels peaceful. In the evening, the shadows stretch too fast. I walked up the steep hill to his place at twilight. The sun was dipping below the trees. For the first 2 hours, it was just like old times. We sat on the porch. We talked, laughed, and caught up. Then the darkness fully settled. The conversation dried up. The silence from the woods felt massive. I looked out toward the dark trees. The cool air rolled off the hills. I wanted to get moving. "Hey," I said, "let's take a walk down the forest trail. Get some fresh air." Ramjan stopped talking mid-sentence. He looked at the trees. Then he looked back at me. His face went completely stiff. "Let's just stay inside," he said. He shifted in his chair. "I have some movies downloaded. Let's watch something." I frowned. "Man, I'm not into movies. Come on, it's a clear night." "Just a short walk." Ramjan didn't answer right away. He stared at the floorboards. He rubbed the back of his neck and let out a long breath. When he looked up, the warmth was gone. "If we go out there," his voice dropped low, "if we go in there after dark, we follow rules. Rules my mother have taught me for years." I laughed. I expected him to smile and tell me it was a joke, but Ramjan just stared right through me. His hands were flat on his knees. "I'm serious," he whispered. "My mother lived on this hill her whole life. She knew what parts of these woods belonged to us and what parts didn't. If we step past that tree line, you follow these rules. No questions." I nodded slowly. The dry air caught in my throat. "First," Ramjan said, holding up a finger, "there are no kids in this forest. The nearest house is miles away. If you hear a child crying in the brush, no matter how close, no matter how desperate, do not look for them. Do not call out. Anyone crying out, 'There is not a kid.'" I shrugged. "Yeah, I mean, it's night time. Why would a kid even be out there? It makes no sense. Besides, making kids sounds out in the dark is just a stupid joke." "It's not a joke," Ramjan said, his face completely pale. "Second rule, watch the branches. If you see a group of owls gathered in one spot, especially near a clearing, we turn back immediately. Do not walk past them." I chuckled a bit. "Come on, man. Owls are just afraid of natural predators. It's nothing cinematic." "They are hiding from something on the ground," Ramjan insisted. His voice was trembling now. "You don't want to meet them. And if they get close, they rarely approach from the front. They want you to panic. They want you to turn your back and run so they can hunt you. Keep your head up, look straight ahead, keep a steady pace. If you run, you're done." "Easy for you to say," I muttered. "But we don't have weapons, we just have our phones." "Your phone light is enough if you keep moving," Ramjan said. "But don't ask what they are. We don't name them. Naming them is an invitation. Don't speak it, don't even think about it, just follow the rules." "One last thing," he whispered. "The most important one. If we get separated and you hear me calling your name from the dark, do not answer, do not walk toward the sound. Only trust my voice if you can see my face directly. If you can't see my face, move away." I stared at him like he lost his mind. Who on earth will mimic my friend's voice this late in the night? Ramjan didn't answer. He just stood up, pulled out his phone, and turned on the built-in flashlight. He looked toward the side of the house where the darkness pressed heavily against the wooden siding. "Hey," he said, adjusting his belt. "I actually need to pee real quick before we head down the trail. Just give me a moment. Wait for me by the edge of the driveway." "Sure, man," I said. I pulled out my own phone, switching on my flashlight as Ramjan walked off into the shadows near the back of the house. The narrow lead beam from my screen threw a weak, shallow light into the dense grass. I walked down the steps and stood at the edge of the gravel, waiting. A minute passed. The silence from the hills felt massive. Then, a shape stepped out from the darkness near the corner of the house. It was Ramjan. He held his phone, his flashlight cutting through the low fog. "All right," he said. The word came out completely wrong. It sounded broken, dry, and strained, like he had suddenly come down with a severe burning fever in the span of 60 seconds. The pitch cracked heavily on the last syllable. I adjusted my phone light, trying to see past his screen. "Hey, you fine, man? You sound sick." The figure didn't say anything. It just nodded once, a stiff, mechanical drop of the chin. "Let's go," it muttered. We stepped off the gravel and onto the dirt path. We entered the towering trees together. Within 5 minutes, the outskirts vanished. The canopy swallowed everything. The air changed instantly. It felt thick, heavy, and freezing cold. Our phone flashlights barely cut through the mist. Every twig snapping under our shoes felt dangerously loud. No, kids. Watch the owls. Trust the face, not the voice. Do not run. Never name them. We walked down a steep slope for 10 minutes. The silence became absolute. The woods were holding their breath. Then it started. It came from a thick patch of thorns to our right. The sound was devastating. It sounded full of helpless terror. My instincts screamed at me to dive into the bushes. I took half a step toward the sound. Beside me, Ramjan stopped walking. He gently raised his hands, as if he was waving something that I could not see. His mouth opened slightly. "Kid cries," he muttered. The phrase was short, clipped, and completely stripped of the fluid grammar he had used on the porch. He wasn't warning me away. He was confirming the sound, testing to see if I would take the bait. "Ramjan, it sounds so close," I whispered, my heart hammering as the rules rushed through my head. "Anyone crying out there is not a kid." I looked at him. The flashlight screen cast sharp shadows upward across his stiff jaw. He just stared into the thorns. "Kid cries," he repeated, his tone entirely flat, like a recorded phrase being played back through a broken speaker. The chilling lack of empathy in his voice snapped me out of it. I forced my legs to move. I kept my eyes locked on the dirt trail. The crying didn't fade. It moved with us, keeping perfect pace inside the dark tree line without a single sound of rustling leaves or snapping twigs. We kept our heads down, locking our phone beams on the path until the weeping finally stopped mid-sob. We kept moving. A few minutes later, the trail opened up, approaching a massive clearing 50 yards ahead. Ramjan stopped dead. He raised his phone, shining the weak beam at the upper branches of the big oaks. Dozens of shapes lined the limbs. Glowing, unblinking eyes reflected the light. Owls, packed tight together and completely silent, every single one stared down at the clearing. I breathed. "The owls!" He didn't react. I was not sure if he had heard me or not. "I see bird," he whispered. The sentence sent a chill down my spine. "I see bird," not owls. Not a warning to turn back, just a crude label. We turned back immediately. The real Ramjan had said on the porch, "Don't walk past them." "We need to turn back," I said, stepping backward. "Remember, slow, don't turn your back." Suddenly, a thick patch of fog rolled over the ridge. It blinded us for a split second. The air turned ice cold, smelling like old dust and stagnant water. The fog cleared a moment later. My phone beam caught nothing but empty mist. Ramjan was gone. Panic hit my chest. I stood frozen on the damp trail, the words of the invitation catching in my throat. Then, the brush 10 yards to my left rustled. A voice called out. It was Ramjan's voice, but the structure was entirely broken, struggling to piece the sentences together. "Hey," he rasped from the dark. "Over here." I slipped trailside. I find short path back porch. "Come." Step off trail, walk to my voice. I turned my head slightly, keeping my feet planted. The voice came from behind a massive rotting oak tree. I couldn't see his face. Rule number 3. Only trust the voice if you can see the face directly. "Ramjan," I called out, my voice trembling. "Step out. Let me see you. Just come here," his voice replied, the syntax warping further. "Cold very much. Go house now. Walk into trees." Underneath the words I heard a faint, sickening noise. It sounded like air scraping through a wet, hollow throat, trying desperately to mimic human speech patterns it didn't fully understand. Suddenly, 3 owls took flight from the branches above the tree, screeching in pure terror as they fled. Whatever stood behind that tree shifted its weight with a heavy crunch. I forced my eyes away. I locked my phone light straight down the path toward the outskirts. I took a deep breath, and I took a single, deliberate step forward. I didn't run. I walked a normal, steady, measured pace. My foot hit the dirt. Instantly, someone stepped out from behind the oak, staying in the deep shadows. Every time I took a step, a slow, heavy thud followed in the brush beside me. Why walk away? Rum John's voice called out from the darkness. The pitch jumped wildly, losing all regular structure. I hear, turn, look me, run. The word run echoed through the trees, distorted and layered, as if multiple throats were executing the word at the exact same time. My hands shook badly. I kept my chin up and stared at the dark trail ahead, repeating the words in my mind. Do not run. Do not look back. Do not behave like prey. The heavy thuds grew closer. One of them crept up behind my left shoulder, just outside the light, bringing a suffocating scent of wet earth and decay. I forced my feet to maintain the rhythm. Walk. Just walk. Suddenly the dense trees to my right thinned out. Up ahead, 100 yards away, I saw the faint amber glow of the porch light. The moment the light appeared, the footsteps stopped. A low, frustrated click echoed from the shadows behind me, like two heavy stones snapping together. I didn't look back. I just ran towards the house. I scrambled up the steps of the porch, my chest heaving as I slammed the heavy front door shut behind me. I threw the deadbolt into place, the sharp click echoing through the silent living room. I stood there in the dark, my forehead pressed against the cold wood of the door, listening. Outside, the woods were dead silent again. The heavy thuds had vanished the moment my boots left the dirt trail. I took a long, trembling breath and turned around. The house was completely dark, save for the faint amber glow filtering through the window from the porch light outside. Ramjan? I called out, my voice cracking in the empty space. No answer. I walked into the kitchen, my hands still shaking so badly I could barely hold my phone. I needed to see his face. I needed to find him, to make sure he had somehow doubled back through that shortcut he mentioned. Then I noticed the kitchen table. Sitting right there were the 2 glasses of water, completely untouched, right where we had left them before heading outside. But something else caught my eye. Right in the center of the table was a deep, wet smudge of mud, as if something damp had reached onto the wood. I checked the counter where Ramjan always left his phone to charge. Nothing. The charging cable was torn from the wall, dangling loosely. His phone was completely gone. He hadn't just left it behind. Something had taken it. My blood turned to pure ice. If his phone wasn't here, then the light I followed in the woods wasn't a stray flashlight. The figure walking beside me had deliberately stripped away our only connection to the outside world before we ever crossed the tree line. A soft rustling sound came from the back hallway, near the bedrooms. I froze, my breath catching in my throat. I slowly turned my flashlight beam down the long, narrow corridor. At the very end of the hall, a bedroom door slowly creaked open. A figure stepped out into the beam of light. It was Ramjan. He was wearing the exact same clothes. He looked completely normal. He smiled warmly, stepping toward me with fluid, easy strides. "Man, you scared me," Ramjan said, his voice perfectly natural, full of the exact same warmth and easy grammar from earlier in the afternoon. "I turned around in the fog and you were just gone." I took the old ridge path back. "I lost my phone out there in the dark somewhere. Have you seen it?" I stopped dead in my tracks. I looked down at his feet. His boots were completely dry. No mud from the ridge path. No damp leaves. And then he raised his hands to rub the back of his neck, exactly like he had done on the porch. Except this time, his fingers kept moving, sliding all the way up into his hair, gently gripping the top of his head and lifting the skin just a fraction of an inch away from his skull. Underneath the edge of his chin, in the dark shadow where the flashlight didn't fully reach, I heard a faint, wet click, like 2 heavy stones snapping together. He smiled wider. "Let's watch a movie," he said. I have visited him many times over the years, and we always enjoy the company. It was almost always daytime though. We still talk for hours, catching up just like we used to. But every time I look back at that night, a cold dread settles deep in my chest. I know the truth. That night something else accompanied me on that trail. Something else walked beside me in the dark, wearing a face it stole. I don't know what would have happened if I had run, or if I had turned into the trees, but looking back at the open woods from the safety of the daylight, I know just how lucky I am to have escaped. If you enjoyed this story and the tension kept you on the edge of your seat, please hit the like button and consider subscribing to the channel for more slow burn horror narrations. What do you think would have happened if the narrator drank the tea? I would love to hear your theories, so leave your thoughts and feedback in the comments section below. Stay safe out there, and thank you for listening.